The interior air, it was mid-morning, and the bustle of students typing on computers filled the Blue Peak Cafe in the center of Austin, Texas, with the continuous sound of grinders and the gentle murmur of casual conversation. Locals getting their daily caffeine fix and couples enjoying some alone time. With banners supporting environmental concerns and artwork created locally, the cafe took pleasure in being a place of openness and community. That morning, a man entered the store, disrupting the usual pace. He wasn't attempting to attract attention, but it found him anyway since he was wearing a red MAGA hat that virtually shined against his otherwise casual outfit. He strode with confidence. He was just another customer approaching the desk, inconspicuous but blatantly divisive, and the employees and customers were unaware that they were staring at Elon Musk, the tech millionaire. Behind the counter, a mogul and CEO of the same coffee company they frequently visited. Elon approached the counter with a composed expression and a courteous smile, but Lily Summers, a barista with a keen mind and an equally keen sense of justice, froze at the sight of the hat. A junior sociology major at the University of Texas who took pride in standing up for what she believed in, the hat was a symbol of harm and division and a beacon for everything she had protested against. "Could I get a large Americano this morning?" Please note that his tone was kind, almost disarming. When Lily considered her friends, her family, and the rally she had attended, she hesitated because she could feel her heart racing in her chest. The cafe had a rigorous policy about treating customers equally, but something inside of her objected. "We can't serve you." A silence descended upon the cafe, heads turned, and whispers started to spread like a rising tide as she said, "I'm sorry," her voice faltering slightly before finding its edge. The red letters on the hat were burning in her mind. Elon's smile wavered and was replaced by a controlled expression of interest. "Can't serve me?" he inquired in a voice that even allowed me to ask why. Lily looked at the hat and then back at him. "That thing on your head represents everything that goes against what this place stands for, what I stand for," she added in a harder voice. A few customers looked at each other, while some pushed forward in their seats, curious to know what would happen next. Elon inhaled deeply while putting his hands on the counter. His response was more like disappointment than rage. "But you don't know anything about me, I don't need to," he added. Before she could stop herself from saying anything more, Lily shot back the words that were leaking out. The tension in the room was evident. An additional barista, Eric, is a quiet worker in his late 20s, glanced away from the espresso maker, a look of surprise and anxiety on his face. He tried to step in and tell Lily to just make the coffee, but she shook her head and her determination hardened, saying that this is about more than just coffee, it's about doing the right thing. Elon allowed the silence to linger for a while because the exchange was weighty for everyone in the room, not just the two of them. Eventually, he calmly put the business card on the counter and slid it toward her, saying, "Maybe you should look at this." His voice was firm but quiet. After hesitating, Lily took the card. Her eyes opened as she read the name, which was engraved in big, clear letters. CEO Bean Ridge Coffee and Elon Musk, founder. The cafe became quiet once more as everyone's awareness set in Lily's face flushed as she turned to face Elon, who examined her with an almost calm gaze rather than gloating or reprimanding her. "That Americano is still something I enjoy. If it's not too much effort," he said in a neutral tone. The whole audience appeared to be holding its breath in anticipation of Lily's next action as her hands trembled as she attempted to comprehend what had just transpired. Like a thundercloud, the weight of Elon's remarks lingered in the atmosphere. Lily remained still. The room was so silent that the gentle hiss of steam from the espresso machine felt deafening, and she was trembling a little as she held the business card. Eric, who was still at the espresso machine, tried to break the tense atmosphere with a shaky giggle. "You're joking, right?" he questioned, grinning strained at Elon. Elon looked calmly but steadily at Eric. Whispers started to spread like wildfire across the cafe as he made a subtle gesture toward the card, saying, "I don't make jokes about things like this." His movements were deliberate, and everything is there if you'd like to confirm. A young woman seated close to the window leaned toward her companion. "Is that Elon Musk?" Her voice was tinged with incredulity as she muttered, "I think it's her friend." Her eyes widened. "What's he doing here?" The weight of dozens of eyes on her made Lily swallow hard. She wanted to say something, anything, but her words felt stuck in her throat. Her mind raced, attempting to make sense of the man in front of her, his calm demeanor, his hat, and his identity. It was all too much. Elon, however, maintained his composure. His voice was firm but steady as he added, "I didn't come here to make a scene. Like everyone else, I just wanted a cup of coffee when I heard a voice in the corner. A middle-aged man with a weathered face, wearing a flannel shirt and sipping black coffee, broke through the murmurs. If he owns the place, shouldn't he get to wear whatever he wants? He asked in a tone that was actually quite serious. Then, a younger woman with thick-rimmed glasses and brightly dyed hair spoke up. It's not about the hat, but rather what it signifies. You can't deny that a quiet argument broke out in the cafe as some customers defended Elon's right to wear the hat while others debated its ramifications. As the chatter swirled around her, Lily felt her cheeks flaming. She looked at Eric, who was now staring at her. Elon lifted a hand in a mixture of silent supplication and concern, and the room nearly instantly fell silent. I didn't come here to start a fight, but since we're here, allow me to ask you this. Is it reasonable to make a snap judgment about someone based only on what they're wearing and not knowing anything else about them? There was something authoritative about his presence that made everyone pay attention. Elon nodded reflectively as a young man seated close to the counter with his arms crossed tightly sneered. Come on, man, that hat isn't just clothing, it's a statement. That's a statement, you're right, but do you understand what that means to me, or are you assuming that you do? The man paused, his face changing to Elon's voice kept becoming more introspective. I understand that this hat represents divisiveness for some, but for me it's about having the flexibility to think differently, challenge conventions, and have faith in economic opportunities. It reflects principles, but it doesn't imply that I agree with everything or everyone involved. I think the room went silent once again as the gravity of his remarks set in, and even Lily felt a glimmer of uncertainty seeping into her convictions. She had been so confident in herself and had acted so quickly, but now she questioned whether she had been too fast to pass judgment. Elon glanced back to Lily, and his gaze grew softer. I see where you're coming from. He stated that although I respect your values, respect must reciprocate. Do you not believe? Lily started to reply, but before she could do so, the cafe door opened and a group of college students entered. They were chattering loudly and energetically, and their conversations quickly filled the room. One of them, a tall man wearing a baseball cap backwards, saw Elon and froze. Wait a second, he said, pointing out that there was no way Elon Musk was here. The students were gathered near the counter, and their enthusiasm changed the atmosphere of the room. Some gazed at Elon in wonder, while others exchanged doubtful looks. Elon discreetly let out a breath while examining his watch. Speaking directly to Lily, he said, I wasn't here to discuss politics. He pointed to the coffee makers and the baristas working hard behind the counter, saying, I came to see how this location is doing. It's part of my job to check in on my businesses. The shop is part of something I built, a place that's supposed to welcome everyone, regardless of who they are or what they believe. His eyes lingered on Lily for a moment longer. I'd still like that coffee. He added, quieter now but no less firm, but if you can't serve me, I'll understand. I'll just have to think about what that says. Lily looked down at the card as the words struck her more forcefully than she had anticipated. The cafe appeared to hold its collective breath as the bright letters in her palm caught the light surrounding her. Awaiting her next move by the time Lily gave Elon his coffee, her hands were still shaking a little, and the atmosphere of the cafe had changed to something more solemn. Patrons were whispering in low voices, some exchanging curious glances and others offering silent criticism. Elon accepted the cup with a courteous nod and proceeded to a table by the window. He sat calmly, sipping his coffee and browsing through his phone as though the altercation had never occurred, but it was far from over because, unbeknownst to Elon and Lily, a customer had recorded the entire conversation and posted it to social media. The caption said the bartender declines to serve within hours after Elon Musk wearing a MAGA hat. The video went viral, revealing that he actually owns the establishment, causing a flurry of reactions. The aftermath started when Lily woke up the following morning to a flurry of social media alerts, missed calls, and texts from friends. Her rarely used Instagram account was inundated with comments, some of which commended her for standing up for what was right and telling others that she shouldn't be working in a coffee shop if she couldn't serve every customer. At first, she didn't understand what was going on, but when she saw the video, her heart fell as she saw herself on screen. The film failed to depict the subtleties of her internal conflict and the background of her decision, as her voice faltered as she declined to serve Elon. It turned her into a representation of the cultural conflict raging throughout the country. Her manager, an hour later, Rick, contacted her and said, Lily, we need to talk. His tone was measured but serious, and I knew that Lily's response was barely audible above a whisper. We're getting calls. Rick went on to say that corporate is now involved. I'm working to prevent things from getting out of control, but you might want to brace yourself because this won't end easily. Lily experienced a surge of anxiety as she recalled Elon's composed manner throughout the altercation. Had he anticipated? In the meanwhile, Elon was answering calls from his public relations staff while seated in his Austin, Texas, office. The video had amassed millions of views and sparked discussions on social media and in news publications. He was praised by conservative pundits as a hero for defending free speech. His hat's implications were examined by liberal commentators, who questioned if it was a sincere declaration of belief or an act of provocation. During a Zoom call, Elon, the head of PR Lauren, stated that since this is growing larger than we expected, a public announcement is required. Elon pinched the bridge of his nose while leaning back in his chair. He said it was a misunderstanding rather than a campaign, so I don't want to make things worse. Lauren scowled. However, we have no control over the story anymore. If we ignore it, others will fill in the gaps. Elon sighed as his thoughts raced. He considered Lily's trembling voice when she rejected him and the way her convictions seemed to crumble under the weight of his admission that she wasn't a villain and that he didn't want her to turn into one. But how could he explain that to a group of people eager for conflict? Let's keep it straightforward, he said at last. I'll acknowledge the incident, but let's concentrate on what matters. Dialogue, not outrage. Elon shared a video of himself standing in a light-filled, minimalist environment and saying hello to the camera on social media that afternoon. By now, he started, although I disagreed with her decision, I think it's important to stand up for what you believe in, and we need to find ways to disagree without tearing each other apart. Many of you have watched the video of my visit to one of my coffee shops. There has been a lot of debate about what happened, and I'd like to share my perspective. He paused to give me time to process what he was saying. First, I want to say that I respect Lily, the barista who refused to serve me. She acted in accordance with her principles. Elon's face softened as he went on. I hope we can use this moment because it's about people, not about hats or politics, as a chance to listen to one another and engage in the difficult discussions that result in understanding. The video concluded with a straightforward statement. For Lily, the video was both a relief and a burden. She appreciated Elon's attempt to defuse the situation, but it didn't erase the barrage of comments, the calls from reporters, or the looks she received at the cafe. Let's talk. The reactions were as divided as ever. Some praised Elon's calm response, calling it a rare example of leadership in a polarized world. Others accused him of deflecting, arguing that his hat represented more than just personal beliefs. It symbolized pain for many marginalized communities larger than Elon. Later that week, it became a focal point of the country's continuing cultural conflicts. When Elon explained the situation to Naomi Carter, a well-known social justice activist from Denver, she listened intently and said, "You want to hold a community meeting?" Elon responded, "I want to talk face-to-face with the people affected by this. I want to hear them out." Naomi Carter was respected for her ability to bring people together even in the most contentious situations. She had organized community forums on police reform, education inequality, and environmental justice, always emphasizing dialogue over division. Naomi cocked her head. I know Elon stated that studying him won't be simple because people are upset and hurt. However, we must begin somewhere. After giving his words some thought, Naomi agreed and said, "Let's do it." The Denver Community Center was small, with rows of folding seats placed in a circle and fluorescent lights shining overhead. Everyone had seen the film, and everyone had an opinion. A slight hum of conversation filled the room as individuals trickled in, some interested, others nervous. A range of emotions were depicted in the gathering, including wrath, hope, irritation, and cautious optimism. Elon Musk showed up early dressed in pants and a basic gray sweatshirt. No MAGA hat this time. He shook hands with event organizer Naomi Carter near the door. Naomi, she started by standing in the middle of the circle and saying, "We're here tonight because an incident at a coffee shop sparked a conversation about symbols, beliefs, and respect. This meeting isn't about assigning blame or winning an argument, it's about understanding." She gestured toward Elon Musk, who had agreed to join us to share his perspective and listen to yours. She was a tall woman with a commanding presence who had a way of making people feel seen. Her voice was calm but firm, and it cut through the growing noise. "Okay, let's keep things civil." There was a ripple of agreement in the crowd. Naomi looked to Elon with a slight nod of approval. "Do you want to begin?" Elon moved forward, his face serious. "Thank you, Naomi," he said, "and thank you all for being here. I know the last few days have been intense. A man seated toward the back let out a short, dry giggle. Elon acknowledged the strain with a little smile. He nodded toward an imaginary cap, and while I won't claim to know what everyone has experienced or what this hat means to each of you, I can tell you that it represents individual freedom to me, economic opportunity, and the conviction that, with enough effort, we may improve our lot in life. The room was silent for a while before a young woman with curly hair and a sweatshirt that read, "Love Wins," raised her hand. He glanced around the room, meeting the attendees' eyes. I also understand that for many, it represents something very different, and I want to hear why I'm here to listen. It feels like a smack in the face to individuals like me because my parents are immigrants and some of the things it stands for have made their life more difficult. My name is Erin, and she stated it in a firm and honest voice. Therefore, it feels more like exclusion than freedom to me when I see it. Elon gave a slow nod. His expression was contemplative. Erin, I appreciate you sharing that and your candor. When a man in his 50s wearing a button-down shirt said, "I'm Rick," the tension in the room increased. He said in a sharp voice, "I'm a veteran, and that hat reminds me of what I fought for, which is the right for all of us to have different opinions. But lately it feels like having a different opinion makes you an enemy that's not the country I fought for." Naomi entered, her words piercing through like a soothing wind. "Thank you both, and let's continue. I think you're here tonight, Lily. Do you want to share?" Lily, who had considered attending at all, stiffened when she sat close to the circle's edge. I'm the barista from the video, but something forced her to face the fallout head-on. She stood slowly, her heart pounding, and spoke softer than usual. All eyes were on her, some sympathetic, others guarded, but she pushed through. "I made a decision that day because I believed I was standing up for what was right, but now I'm not sure I still believe in my principles. But I've realized that excluding someone because of what they're wearing doesn't lead to understanding. It merely creates a larger wall." She straightened herself when her voice faltered, and I apologize for how I handled it. Although I didn't intend to harm anyone, I now see that I may have. After a moment of looking at her with an unreadable expression, Elon said, "Thank you, Lily," in a tone that befits someone with courage. "We're all passionate about what we believe, which is great, but we can't keep yelling at each other from opposite sides. If we don't start talking, we're just going to tear ourselves apart," said a man from the back of the room holding a cap with the words "Veterans for Change" printed on it. Naomi took the stage once more. Her speech was full with conviction, which is precisely why we are here to speak and not cry. As the meeting came to an end, Naomi spoke to the room. "We've heard a lot tonight, we've seen how complicated this all is, but what I hope we take away from this is that dialogue matters and that we can disagree without dehumanizing each other." Over the course of the next hour, stories flowed out. A woman talked about how she felt alienated as a black mother. A small business owner shared how certain policies had hurt his livelihood. A college student explained why she marched for causes she believed in. A college student explained why she marched for Elon took a final step forward. I hope that tonight has fulfilled my goal of understanding, which is why I came here. This is a beginning, but we won't resolve everything in a single meeting. I appreciate you taking part in it. For the first time, it felt like a step forward when the room exploded in warm, sincere applause rather than loud cheers. Following the community gathering, the headlines switched to other subjects, bringing an unexpected quiet to the flurry of debate. As life at Bean Ridge Cafe settled down and the viral video faded from the spotlight, the experience had a profound impact on those involved. Elon Musk began to think back on the encounter. The tales told by the participants had stayed with him as he sat in his Austin office one calm day. The agony of the young woman and the pride of the veteran Lily's ambivalent apologies. He called Naomi Carter to thank her, reminding her that symbols, no matter how personal, could mean different things to different people. He said that meeting was the first step, but it couldn't be the last. Naomi agreed pragmatically that you have a platform, Elon, and she said, "Use it, let's turn this into something bigger." Back at the Denver cafe, Lily was getting used to her new reality, but she continued to get comments from patrons, some encouraging, some critical. However, she became more resilient, and more significantly, she began to view her work differently. The cafe was more than just a place to get coffee. It was a microcosm of the wider world and a place where different viewpoints came together. One afternoon, Elon returned to the cafe without a hat, and he approached the counter with his usual composure. Lily gave him a tentative smile. As she was preparing his order, Elon leaned on the counter and said, "Please, Americano." "How are you doing?" Lily's shrug was better than I had anticipated, and hearing everyone's tales at the meeting altered my perspective. Elon gave a contemplative nod. That's wonderful to hear, and I've been considering our conversation from that evening. He put a folder on the counter and said, I have an idea. I want to create a program for all Bean Ridge locations. A space for open discussions facilitated by people like Naomi. A way to bridge divides and encourage understanding. Lily picked up the folder and read the proposal, which included plans for monthly community events, community service partnerships, and scholarships for underserved students. Her eyes were wide as she glanced up at Elon. I share her ambition. But I can't do it alone. I need people who believe in it, Elon remarked, grinning slightly. People who are similar to you. Lily blinked, surprised that you wanted my assistance, assuming you're open to it. Elon answered, You have a valuable insight because you have seen all sides of things. After a brief pause, Lily held out her hand and replied, All right, let's do it. Over the following few months, the project started to take shape. Across the nation, Bean Ridge cafes held open forums where individuals could listen to others' tales and share their own. The Bridges at Bean Ridge program immediately gained popularity and received recognition for empathizing with and encouraging discourse. Naomi Carter emerged as a pivotal player in the project, assisting with moderator training and debate topic development. She frequently returned to the cafe in Denver for work, where she and Lily bonded over their mutual dedication to promoting understanding. The cafe was silent save for the occasional rustle of papers and the faint hum of machinery one evening when Naomi and Elon went there after hours to talk about the program's development. Do you think it's working? While drinking a decaf coffee, Elon inquired. Naomi gave serious thought to his question. It doesn't address everything she mentioned, but it's a start. People are conversing more than they did previously. Once the background of division had changed into something, Elon relaxed back in his chair with a contented expression on his face. Good, that's all I wanted. More regulars from all walks of life now came in for connections as well as coffee. Along with clients' messages of hope and solidarity, the walls featured pictures from the community gatherings. As a manager today, Lily frequently found herself at the heart of these events. Learned to listen as much as she talked, discovering worth and viewpoints she had before discounted. The experience had altered her, not by destroying her convictions but by expanding her comprehension of other people. One afternoon, Elon returned to the cafe and stood close to the counter, observing Lily's interactions with patrons. Her confident and friendly approach caught his attention, and she motioned him over. How's it going? He inquired, busy, to which she answered slyly but kindly. Elon looked around the cafe, absorbing the lively atmosphere that makes this location feel unique. Lily stated it, and I believe it's only the beginning. The Denver Cafe's narrative became a reminder that connections could still be made even in a world where people's identities and ideas were different. It wasn't about agreeing on everything. Rather, it was about seeing each other as individuals first. Elon and Lily, two people from very different backgrounds, had discovered common ground by allowing themselves to grow rather than by compromising their morals. Their path demonstrated that knowledge wasn't always simple but was always worthwhile. Elon experienced a rare sensation of hope as he left the cafe that day, with the sun shining warmly over the busy street. The bridges they were constructing might just hold, one step at a time.